Hello and welcome to Squid Nation. I'm your host, the Squid God. I'm joined by Tidge,
Hello.
and today we're going to be discussing the top five most underrated One Piece characters. I think with One Piece being as big of a franchise as it is, there's a lot of side characters that get a lot of development, and so many of them unfortunately get forgotten about. Do you have any personal ones?
Um, Not really. No, not really.
Say we are going to be say I haven't seen much of the filler, but we are going to be including movie characters as well from the ones I've seen. I know, and when we say underrated, we mean characters who we feel like don't get enough appreciation in the entire One Piece world, or don't get talked about nearly enough as they should be. So, as a newbie and as the long-time fan here, we're gonna jump into it. Okay, my number five one, I don't right. I would argue he's underrated because he played a massive part in two of the biggest arcs. Mr. Free.
Mr. Free.
Originally, I was going to include Crocodile here, but it turns out due to the polls that he is actually the second highest rated villain recently.
Yeah.
Neither fans, so I didn't think that was underrated per se, and I think Croc's going to return. But what do you think about Mr. Free?
From what we've got of him, I think I quite enjoyed him of his use, considering how much of us on how useless he looked in the first arc
What, in
of
Little
Alabasta.
Garden? Yeah.
And the way they used him in Impel Down was pretty good as well.
I quite like how they used him in Alabasta in Little Garden, but he did seem just like, generic henchman.
Yeah.
But I do think he used his powers quite creatively, and we got some great comic relief of Zoro. But yeah, I think he really shone in Impel Down with the best ship ever in the show. Buggy with him and Buggy.
Yeah.
Them two are such a perfect combo. And again, his abilities were the only reason Luffy was able to fight Magellan, which I think that's worth noting.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, he is the one who actually got Ace Free as well, which is a fact that a lot of people forget about.
Unfortunately.
Because remember, it was his key that unlocked the cuffs.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. As well, I do think he's got a very unique devil fruit. I don't think it's too overpowered. I think you really do need to tag team it. But again, the reason Mr. Free I'd say isn't higher is because despite being in two of the big arcs, he really hasn't done anything since. And I don't think he will, if I'm being honest.
I do think what's worth mentioning as well is back in Little Garden again. People forget on how actually brutal he actually was, though. With the giants and all.
Oh yeah, he was.
Because he
didn't
nailed,
hold back, did he?
Yeah, he nailed one of their hands on that.
Yeah. But yeah, the only downside I can see with him is he's not. Can't really see him being used too often again. And he doesn't really work unless he's part of a team. Because even in Little Garden, he was part of a team, wasn't he? With the little one, the painter.
Oh yeah,
the scary painter. But yeah, that's my number five. Number four is the most underrated character, and I will stand by this point: Gecko Moria. I absolutely love Gecko Moria. I don't 100% get the hate, if I'm being honest. Well, I understand why people don't like him, but I don't get why people hate him to the extent that they do. Right, what's your opinion on Moria?
I do enjoy him, but I do understand where people are coming from, where he's a bit underwhelming compared to the other villains. Because the main reason a lot of people don't like him is because the previous arc, where you got someone like Rob Lucci who is pretty high on people's villains.
Yeah.
And then you went to Gecko Moria, who ain't exactly the most threatening, but still was.
I think everything about him is the fact that he's a shadow of his former self, literally. And I love his history with the against the Beast pirates.
Yeah.
I love his history with Kaido, and you can just picture that trauma that he went through. And again, every time he's on screen, he really does get screwed up.
Yeah.
But again, I love that little greedy aspect of him. I love how as soon as Oz Jr. started to fall, he wanted to take advantage of that full on. And he had one of the most unfair abilities in the Paramount War, being able to bring the soldiers back.
Yeah.
And again, I think the only thing I didn't like with Gecko was that one time where he could swap his shadow out. That was the only bit with Gecko I didn't like. And I think the main thing people don't like about Gecko either is his design. Because his neck, with the neck and everything. Because a lot of people don't seem to like that, but I disagree. I think it makes him stand out quite a bit. Yeah. And again, the only thing with Gecko I think we are going to see more of him, due to him appearing on on Pirate Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only other issue I have is he doesn't really do a lot himself. but I do love the history and everything that he's created with his crew.
Yeah.
And I like how he is just that downfall. I just want to see more of him, if I'm being honest. I want to see his Doflamingo pursuing him, because he was when he lost his Warlord title. I think that's my only complaint with Gecko, though. I just want to see more of him. Probably an unpopular choice, I know, but I like Gecko Moria. I like his abilities. I think he's like heavily underrated and heavily underused. Number 3, going into movie territory here, the Baron.
The Baron.
Yep. I think movie 6, I don't know if people have recently have forgotten about this movie, but this movie's terrifying.
Very.
Movie 6 is the best One Piece film, and I will stand by that. Right? And its tone is so jarring that it's creepy and terrifying. It don't feel like an anime movie. It feels like a genuine movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think most of it does actually have to do with the main villain, the Baron. Because while design-wise, he doesn't look the most threatening. You know, he's got a bloody tree as a head, right, and a flower on his shoulder.
On the tail.
Dun, dun, dun. Right, but I do honestly think, right, with his uniqueness amongst all the One Piece characters, right, you know, with his bow and arrow technique, and you know, with the fact that he literally kills you from the inside, he literally destroys you emotionally, and to give him credit, I think he's the only villain other than maybe a Kainu who has actually broken Luffy emotionally.
Yeah.
Well, what was your thoughts on the Baron?
I enjoyed him. Well, at first, you know, you just see him as, you know, like a foxy kind of person. Because at first he's quite comedic.
Didn't it come out at the same time as Foxy as well?
Came out, I think it was similar. Because it was definitely before Enies Lobby and after Robin joined the crew, so probably mid Skype year, probably.
Right. What it say? Also, Luffy's fight and struggle against him was really emotional to watch and kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think it was like no villain I think has ever painted that picture of Luffy, you know, being pinned to that rock with arrows in him, and Luffy ready to just give it all up because his crew's been killed. And the Baron as well. I like how he does have that emotional edge to him because he lost his crew all them years ago.
Yeah.
And you know him finally and you know his way of feeding that poisonous cycle. It feels really real and emotional on that level. And again, that arrow ability is terrifying. But the only reason the Baron isn't higher because I don't think like in abilities in terms of the bigger One Piece world he would be that effective. Like you really couldn't see him surviving in the New World, could you?
No.
Yeah, but I think that's the only other problem, and he does later get a bit overshadowed by the flower.
Yeah.
That terrifying thing. But I will never forget the emotional impact I had watching that scene with the arrows and Luffy's 2 beatdowns, basically. It was just very disturbing. And you remember my face plainly, don't you?
Yep.
But yeah, that's the Baron at number 3. Number 2, I'd argue he's underrated because he don't get talked about. He appears a lot, but he doesn't get talked about a lot. Kuma himself.
Yeah.
I think don't get me wrong, he's presented probably one of the most memorable Zoro moments. And he has appeared in the biggest arcs, you know, with Sabadi and the Paramount War. But Kuma himself, I don't think gets enough representation. The Paphistas do, but Kuma himself with his little moral dilemmas, he doesn't.
If you look at the recent polls, you actually see him like very low in terms of popularity compared to like everyone else.
Which I think Kuma, if I'm being honest, I think overall he's probably the most interesting warlord. Because, right, I know a lot of people will say Doflamingo.
Yeah.
But I disagree, because I think Kuma, because he works for the world government, yet he's a part of the Revolutionary Army. And that mysterious deal, we don't know what he made with Vegapunk. We really have no idea what's going on with him.
I feel like in the next arc or so, I feel like we'll get a bit more history of him.
I hope we do. I think Kuma is a character with a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And every instance we've seen with him has been gold. But again, it's one of those... I wanted to see more of Kuma than the Paphistas. Because I love his ability, and I love his moral complexity. And, like, his reaction, you know, when... is it Avacot? I can never say his name.
Inkavot.
Yeah, Inkavot. Like, his reaction when he sees Kuma in the Paramount War was priceless. You know, that was raw emotion there. And, like, even the flashback bits, like, and the images that Oda's drawn of him in the manga as a kid and stuff. Like, there's really some. I really want to know what happened to him because he seemed like a really loving guy. But yeah, I think he's got one of the most dynamic pieces in the Warlord system, and I really wanted to see more of it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything about Kuma to add?
I do feel like whenever he appears, he is terrifying though. Like at first.
I think that's kind of what the Papistas took away though, after
Yeah.
the Paramount War anyway.
Well, yeah, because you know, Luffy literally one-shots one of them.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're not gonna be as much of a threat anymore.
And I do wish the Papistas had a little bit of a different design.
Yeah.
Like in the next thing we're going to be talking about, they do. But
oh yeah, they do, don't they?
yeah. But yeah, that's my verdict on Kuma. Underrated and needs more screen time. Okay, and the number one, and again, I don't think that anyone's ever actually going to talk about Kuma again until like Vegapunk comes into it.
Yeah.
But number one, and the reason he's number one is because I was talking in a couple of the Discords recently, and the amount of people who said they didn't know who he was kind of shocked me. But it's Zed.
Yeah.
Zed from from One Piece film Zed. Yep.
Yeah.
Zed is such a greatly written character. It's criminal. I think he's got a fantastic story. He's really in the heart of the Marines, which is something we've only really seen with Aokiji and Garp, I'd argue.
Yeah.
Like, but he's got such a good dynamic. His history with all the Marines, everyone in there has that emotional weight. Right. His weaponry is amazing, and his crew of the Neo Marines is really good.
Yeah.
I think he's insane. I think he's got a great moveset to back it up, and a good emotional dilemma. And his story of accepting that he was wrong. That was beautiful. What did you think of Zed anyway?
I really enjoyed him. I know I say that a lot as well, but but yeah, I actually do quite enjoy him, and he was one of the best villains in films. Anyway, probably the best as well.
I think he's one of those. I think he's the only movie villain I'd love to see in canon, in current continuity, because I think he could fit in quite well.
Yeah.
And again, his fight with Kizaru and his like conflicts with Luffy were always great to watch.
Yeah.
And I love how like even like Aokiji when they're at the grave, you know, even them two just have a genuine conversation. He's this old broken veteran who just needs to rest, and I love that conflict at the end where he accepts that and goes out in a blaze of glory. Because that final fight with him is fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't really have any complaints with him. I just really wish he was canon, if I'm being honest. Right. And even then, and that final shot, you know, when it's the flashback as him as a kid.
Yeah.
And I love that even when it cuts to the present, you know, when it's like that montage of his life, and you can see the excitement when he's got the metal arm.
Yeah.
That little like childhood wonder in him. It's basically a Straw Hat story for a Marine, which are kind of rare. In fact, I think actually, do any of the Marines get like a fully fledged out backstory? Because I think the closest we've got is Garp again.
And if you want to count filler, then a bit of Smoker.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Because I ain't seen the filler, but
Yeah, because in what was it? Lowtown, so
yeah.
And you do see him like at the execution.
All right.
And you see his experience there.
Oh, cool. But yeah, I would put Zed at number one, and please make him canon somehow. Like if Shigi can be canon, I don't see why Zed can't.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that was my top 5 underrated One Piece characters. If you agree or disagree, let us know. And any final comments?
No, not really.
Great. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to do the typical YouTube stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.